Hello lovelies, welcome to our channel Universal Movies. Today, I'm going to explain an adventure, fantasy, and horror film called The Ruins. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Two best friends, Stacy and Amy, are enjoying a nice vacation at a resort in Mexico with their boyfriends, Eric and Jeff. While lounging by the pool, Amy notices that one of her earrings is missing. When they look for it, one of the tourists, Matthias, finds it and gives it back to her. Grateful for the help, the friends invite Matthias to stay with them for a drink and start getting to know each other, learning that Matthias is going to an ancient archaeological dig site, a Mayan temple. He says that he will get his brother who had gone there with a girl, an archaeologist, but hasn't come back yet. The four get intrigued by the information, especially after learning that the site isn't even in the guidebooks. So, when Matthias invites them, they say yes. The night before they go to the temple, they all go to a beach party, where Amy gets extremely drunk. Then, when Jeff tells her to go to bed, she refuses. So, Jeff leaves first and entrusts Amy to Stacy and Eric's care. However, Amy tries to flirt with a reluctant Matthias, not wanting to engage in such flirtatious moves. In the end, Stacy pulls Amy away before she could do anything else. The following day, Jeff sees Matthias with his friend, Dimitri, making a copy of the map for the ruins to give to his friends, noting that it only exists on an old map and not on any newer ones. Dimitri then places the map beside his drunken friends, hoping they'd come by once they wake up. While getting ready, a very hungover Amy tells Jeff that she doesn't feel like going anymore, but Jeff manages to sweet-talk her into coming. Matthias tries to call his brother at the marketplace but gets no answer, so they find a taxi to continue. Matthias asks the taxi driver how much they'd need to pay him to take them near the ancient ruins, but the driver doesn't want to bring them there, telling them that it's a bad place. However, Dimitri bribes the driver with $40, making him agree. The taxi drops them off at the location, but Amy is immediately worried about their transportation going back. Matthias then assures them that he can call the taxi back using his world phone, as he's the only one who'd be able to get a signal anywhere. They hike through the woods and come across a couple of children they assume to be Mayans, while Matthias finds a hidden trail leading to their location. Meanwhile, Amy immediately inquires why it's hidden in the first place. When they arrive at the temple, the group stands in fascination, with Amy snapping pictures of everyone. Then, suddenly, a man shows up with a horse, shouting at them in a foreign language. Jeff realizes that he can't speak Spanish, so he assumes that he's asking for money. On the other hand, Amy continues to take photos as more Mayans with bows arrive, although Jeff tells her to stop. Matthias shows the man a picture of his brother on his phone, trying to tell them that they're looking for him, but when Amy backs up to snap a picture, the men suddenly turn violent and draw their weapons. Dimitri comes over to her to help, taking her camera to offer to the Mayans as a sign of peace. However, they get angrier when they see Dimitri coming close. When he tries to approach them, the men shoot him with an arrow and blow his head off. Terrified, the group runs to the top of the temple as the Mayans surround the perimeter. They see tents set up at the top, as well as the dig site, but there's no trace of anybody in there. Jeff tells Matthias to call for help, but the Mayans took his phone. While looking around, Matthias sees a man wrapped in veins with a knife sticking out his chest, and he immediately recognizes him as his brother. Meanwhile, Jeff notices that more Mayans are starting to arrive at the base of the temple, setting up tents, realizing that they won't go near the ruins and won't let them leave either. With Dimitri's friends being their last hope of being found, the group doesn't really feel confident that they'll be able to return to their hotel. Nonetheless, Jeff tries to get their spirits up, reminding them that the hotel will call the police if they don't check out the next day. With survival on the top of their list, Jeff takes charge and tells them that they should save their resources, taking Stacy's water bottle. This then starts an argument between him and Eric, but Jeff tells them that they don't even have enough resources for a day. Suddenly, they hear a ringing cell phone down the dig site, something that Matthias immediately recognizes as his brother's because they had the same phone. The group scrambles to operate the crank, with Matthias volunteering to go down to find the cell phone. However, Amy notices that part of the rope is running thin, so Jeff and Eric try to pull it back up again. Unfortunately, the rope suddenly snaps, dropping Matthias down the shaft. Eric hears that Matthias is still alive, so Jeff instructs one of the two women to check on Matthias. Amy then gets mad, but Jeff tells her that they aren't strong enough to operate the crank. So, in the end, Stacy volunteers to go. While slowly descending, the guys realize that there isn't enough rope to take Stacy all the way down. She then jumps off the rope and lands on her lantern, and a shard of glass impales her leg. Meanwhile, Matthias pleads for help, scared that he can't feel his legs. Realizing that his back is broken, the group starts making an improvised backboard to assist him back up. Amy completely disagrees with the idea, telling Jeff that it's too risky to move someone with a broken back. With desperation filling her, Amy storms down the ruins to talk to the Mayans and hopefully ask for help. Jeff runs after her, and as expected, the Mayans aren't so welcoming of their presence as they instantly point their weapons at them. Amy pleads for help and even tells Jeff to translate what she's saying to Spanish, but he points out that they don't share the same languages. Amy drops to the vines, and in a moment of frustration, she throws a piece towards the Mayans and accidentally hits a small boy. Everyone quickly moves away from the vines and turns their weapons toward the kid, not hesitating to kill him even in front of his mother. The Mayans then shout at the two, forcing them to return to the ruins. Moments later, Jeff finishes the backboard while Amy processes what happened below. So, her boyfriend tells her that it has something to do with the vines and that all of them have touched it. Meanwhile, the cell phone rings once more, so Stacy tries to look for it. Unfortunately, the abundance of vines covers the area, making it hard for her to locate it. With the improvised backboard ready, Amy descends with it, but once again, it doesn't reach the ground. She tells Stacy that they need to send it back up for more rope, but Stacy doesn't want to stay down there a moment longer and proposes that they should just lift Matthias to the backboard. Despite knowing it's a bad idea, Amy follows Stacy's suggestion. They struggle to lift him up as Matthias screams in pain, but they still push through. Fortunately, they successfully get him out of the shaft. As the group looks for any medicine to help Matthias, Jeff finds Dimitri's plane ticket and tells the group that he leaves on an early flight the next day, assuring them that his friends will come to find him and adding that they only need to survive the night. On the other hand, Amy finds the keys to the Jeep they passed by earlier. Later on, Amy comforts a guilt-ridden Stacy, who feels that she made Matthias' condition worse by insisting they lift him up. That night, Jeff offers to keep watch while the others try to get some sleep. He then goes to the bottom of the temple, and the Mayans simply stare at him. When they wake up the following day, Stacy notices that the vines have grown inside their tent and trying to get through the cut on her leg. She then starts freaking out as Eric pulls out the vine, and at the same time, Matthias calls out, feeling that something's wrong with his legs. Amy removes the blanket from him and screams as she sees the state of his legs, covered with the same vines wrapped around Stacy's wound. Jeff immediately tends to his wounds when suddenly, the phone rings again. Because of that, they send down the two women to look for the phone. The women walk further into the temple, stepping through the vines while following the source of the sound despite Stacy's reluctance. They then crouch through a small corner, where they find a woman's dead body covered with vines, clutching the phone. They take it from the corpse's hand but find out that it's cracked and unusable, confusing them since it was just ringing. However, as they inspect the device, they hear a ringing sound again, but not from the phone. Amy sees the red flowers vibrating and imitating the sound of the phone, but when she touches it, the vines start to attack them. They quickly run back to the shaft, trying to lose the vines chasing them. They then both grab the rope and shout for the guys to pull them up as the vines try to catch up to them on their ascent. The two women start to break down because of the incident, telling their boyfriends that the flowers were making the noise and the vines were alive. Even more desperate to leave, Eric proposes that he makes a run for the Jeep to get help for all of them while the others provide a distraction for him, but Jeff thinks it's too dangerous. Enraged, Amy shouts, saying that the Mayans are keeping them there to die, but Jeff is confident that they'll eventually be rescued. Later on, while they share what little resources they have, Matthias' condition progressively worsens. At the same time, Stacy still feels paranoid, feeling that there are still vines inside her. Moments later, Jeff announces to the group that they need to cut off Matthias' legs or else he'll die because there's no more flesh covering his bones. This immediately causes division among them, with Amy and Eric entirely against the suggestion, especially since they have no anesthesia and only have a small knife. However, Jeff assures them that Matthias won't be able to feel anything because he has no more sensation from his waist below. With the group unable to reach a decision, Matthias weakly speaks up and decides that they should cut his legs off. So, the two women hide inside the tent, trying to drown out Matthias' screams of pain while Jeff breaks his bones and cuts off the remainder of his legs. He then tells Eric to hold down Matthias while he cauterizes the wound with a heated pan. After the procedure, Stacy and Amy come out, angry that Matthias obviously felt the pain as he screamed in agony. But again, Jeff tries to explain that he has nerve damage and was probably just reacting to the visual. As they argue, they suddenly see the vines take away the legs they've cut off, realizing that the vines are carnivorous. Then, that night, Stacy desperately checks Eric's phone for a signal, but there's no hope. On the other hand, Jeff stays to keep watch once more and eyes the Mayans at the temple's base. Not able to find any sleep, Amy goes out of the tent and sits beside Eric, both expressing their concerns about Stacy. Amy starts to cry as she worries about their situation, so Eric tries to comfort her with a hug. While inside the tent, Stacy suddenly wakes up, apparently hearing sounds of moaning. She then goes out and confronts the two, thinking they're making love to each other. Stacy starts to shout at them, but they try to convince her that nothing happened and that it was just the sound of Amy crying. Hearing the commotion, Jeff asks what's going on, to which Stacy replies that Eric and Amy are fooling around. Amy denies it, but Stacy doesn't believe her, knowing about her inclination to cheat. Stacy then reveals to Jeff how Amy was coming onto Matthias during the beach party. As Stacy mentions Matthias, Jeff notices that the vines are killing him. Unfortunately, the vines have already slithered inside his throat and stopped his breathing, and it's already too late for Jeff to save him. Because of that, Stacy starts to spiral, thinking that vines are inside her and eating her flesh. She grabs a knife and tries cutting herself, but thankfully, the others are able to stop her. Frustrated, Stacy shouts at a worried Eric, and suddenly, the red flowers imitate her. The next morning, Amy and Jeff sit together, watching the Mayans spread salt on the soil to contain the vines. Amy confronts him about what Stacy said regarding her cheating, but Jeff brushes it off, saying they have bigger things to worry about. Meanwhile, Eric comes out from the tent and calls for the two, showing them Stacy, who indeed has vines slithering underneath the skin on her back. So, they take immediate action and cut through her skin to retrieve the vines, and Stacy cries out in pain while Eric and Amy hold on to her. Jeff successfully removes the one on her leg, and Stacy asks him to take out the one on her back as well. However, as they eat the last of their food moments later, one grape each, Stacy can't calm down, still feeling the vines underneath her skin. She then tries to grab the knife, but Jeff stops her, saying they should stop cutting. Even though Eric assures her that they got all the vines out, Stacy is still freaking out and swears that she can feel it on her head. When Amy gives her a bottle of alcohol to calm her down, the group sees the vines slithering on her head. They all look away and try not to freak Stacy out even more, but it's evident in their faces that she's not going to be okay. Because of that, Eric becomes more certain that he should make a run for the vehicle later that night. Then, as they all take a nap, Stacy wakes up and leaves the tent, going through the bags to look for the knife. Moments later, the others start to wake up and find a bleeding Stacy, cutting herself and desperately digging through her flesh for the vines. Jeff immediately tries to stop her, but she lashes out and accidentally cuts him on the palm. Then, when Eric comes over to stop her, she tries to push him away but ends up stabbing him in the chest instead. He collapses as Stacy slowly comes back to her senses, realizing what she's done. Eric holds his hand out to Stacy as he takes his last breath, the vines slowly dragging his body away. In pain, Stacy cries out for her boyfriend and soon begs Amy just to kill her. Amy declines, but Jeff takes the knife out of Eric's chest and puts her out of her misery. As a last-ditch effort, the remaining two finally decide to make a break for it. Jeff smears blood all over Amy and gives her the keys to the vehicle, telling her not to look back. With no other choice, Amy makes Jeff swear that he'll still be at the temple once she gets help. They put their plan into action as Jeff goes down the ruins, carrying Amy as she pretends to be dead. Meanwhile, the Mayans stand alert as he gently lays her body on the ground. Then, Jeff walks and distracts the Mayans with a monologue, luring the attackers to the side, away from Amy's position. Jeff shouts Amy's name, her cue to run, while he walks closer to the Mayans that immediately shoot him with arrows. One of them then shoots him in the head, and the rest of the Mayans shout and point at Amy, who's running for dear life through the woods. Amy quickly starts the jeep once she reaches it and drives away, but, unfortunately, she feels vines slithering underneath the skin on her face. A day later, Dimitri's friends travel to the ruins to look for him. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.